My dear brothers and sisters, we hear in this reading from the book of the prophet Zechariah that God's promise to bring blessing and prosperity upon his people, to renew and rebuild them, doesn't just end with spiritual blessings. And that's important. God does not promise them to simply save their souls. He promises them life in abundance, as he says to them that there will be children filling the streets, that basically he will cause them to prosper. And obviously, if God is going to promise this kind of prosperity, an increase of the population, then God's certainly going to give all of the spiritual and physical needs that are necessary for that to happen. So in other words, those listening to the words of the prophet Zechariah could place their trust in God, that God was saying he would not cause famine to come. Why do I say this? Because we recognize, brothers and sisters, that as Catholics and as Christians, our concern for the physical needs of ourselves and of others is very important. It is a part of our living out the gospel. While it's true that our works of mercy, giving to the poor, etc., do not get us into heaven, it certainly seems, when we hear Jesus talking about getting into heaven, that without them, we won't get in. So we have to break this down a bit to understand, what does it mean? Certainly somebody can do good deeds without any love in their heart. They can do them with the intention of trying to earn their own salvation. And this is a great mistake, because none of us can ever earn heaven. Heaven, the gift that God wants to give to us, is a free gift that we receive because of our faith in the blood of the Lamb slain for us, Jesus Christ, that we receive once again, freely given, freely received, here at this Eucharist. And yet, God, who is giving us himself, does not want our reception of him to be without effect, for he desires that we be transformed into his sons and daughters who have hearts that are set on his heart. That is, hearts that are moved with compassion for those for whom God's heart is moved with compassion. A saint who is a good example of that very same understanding, that we are called to be concerned about those that God is concerned about, is St. Vincent de Paul. And St. Vincent de Paul advised the group of sisters that he founded to do something that was a little bit controversial at the time. One can read this in the Office of Readings for St. Vincent de Paul today, one of his letters, where he gives the counsel that if a poor person comes to the door while the group is at prayer, that they are to stop the prayer and then go minister to the physical needs of the poor, and then come back to the Lord. Believe me when I say that at that time, that would have been scandalous, especially among those who, in the Jansenistic heresy, considered all things spiritual to somehow completely and totally overshadow anything physical or material. And so, brothers and sisters, we ask God that he may give us the same heart of service a heart of love for others that St. Vincent de Paul had. But really, what we're looking for is the heart of love that Jesus has. So that as we receive his body, blood, soul, and divinity at this Mass, we may be truly transformed into him, into other Christs, so as to fulfill our baptismal calling. And in that transformation, yes, not only place our faith in him, which allows us to receive the graces of salvation that Jesus wants to give to us, but then also becoming those that Jesus would recognize at his second coming, those who are concerned for the poor and for others who go without, whether in terms of spiritual poverty or physical poverty and everything else in between.